CareAsOne is committed to providing a unique virtual collaborative experience for healthcare professionals to come together to exchange information about U.S. healthcare through collaboration, conversation, and knowledge sharing. The Future of Health podcast provides a true infotainment service that helps the industry innovate by sharing expert voices, views, and advice on the important issues of the day. And now here's your host for The Future of Health, Dipti Desai.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Future of Health with CareAsOne. I'm Dr. Dipti Desai, the director of CareAsOne and the host of this podcast series. For those that are new with CareAsOne, it's a large virtual community that jumpstarts innovation acceleration by bringing together various stakeholders in the care cycle, from providers and payers to pharma and clinical researchers, startups, investors, universities, and more. The mission of CareAsOne is to truly accelerate adoption of innovation by creating a connected healthcare community where the patient is at the center of care. And this entire ecosystem comes together through knowledge sharing with the help of healthcare luminaries and thought leaders to discuss the challenges, the gaps, solutions, and transformations that are needed and are essential to make healthcare whole again. This interaction and networking between the stakeholders is made possible through summits, webinars, roundtables, leadership circles, and of course, podcasts. In today's podcast, I have the pleasure of conversing with Gary Cao, Vice President of Enterprise Data and Analytics at Akron Children's Hospital. Gary is the founder of several analytics startups and has over 20 years of experience in the industry. He has a track record of having worked with 7 companies under his belt, with revenues ranging from 40 million to 120 billion. He's been instrumental in building and coaching data teams, influencing analytics professionals, driving strategy for digital transformations in the healthcare organizations that he has served. He's also been recognized as an industry leader by the Analytics Hall of Fame in 2019, just before the pandemic, and also as one of the top 100 under 50 executive leaders in 2015 by the Diversity MBA magazine. So we have a really accomplished individual in front of us, and we're going to be talking about data and technology and unwinding healthcare's digital transformation journey through data and technology. So as you all know, that COVID pandemic has spawned this whole healthcare crisis that we are in. It has revealed some profound underlying problems in US healthcare system. And these ramifications have actually put the industry on the cusp of an era where digital adoption is much needed and is accelerating rapidly, thanks to the efforts of people like Gary Cao. And transformative digital adoption definitely needs a strong foundation to build on. It needs a tightly coordinated ecosystem of the customers, partners, and innovators, which we have and are ready to take on the challenge. So we also have a really invaluable stockpile of data. I believe the World Economic Forum said that we have about 2,000 exabytes of it. And so we have the potential to drastically improve the quality and efficiency of care through all of these ecosystems that can be put together. However, it's fair to say that most of the data is currently not being used to keep people healthy, or to reduce or lower healthcare costs, or to drive meaningful decision-making. As a result, the provider organizations, especially that are doing or trying to adopt value-based care, are facing these high financial pressures. So we want to discuss a lot of this today, and Gary's expertise will help us unravel some of the challenges that are faced by healthcare organizations, and he will kind of give us some insights on what can be done about it. So before we begin, Gary, I would like to first of all thank you for spending your time and giving us your time today for this podcast recording. And I would like to begin by asking you to share with us your healthcare journey, and with an emphasis on some of the work that you're currently doing at Akron Children's Hospital. Gary.
Great. Thank you very much, Deepti, for inviting me to this podcast. We met at HIMSS conference in Orlando a few months ago, and it was nice to us for us to get connected. And thank you. And I'm very happy to be here to support you in building a professional community and network focused on healthcare industry. This is a great effort. Um,
Pleasure.
I would like to share a little bit about my background. I was born in the south part of China and went to Beijing University for college and came to the US for graduate studies in economics in early 1990s. With a master's degree in economics and also an MBA, I started my career in the consumer credit card industry in the state of
Wow.
Delaware. I worked at companies that later became parts of Bank of America and Chase, and my roles were always generally senior managers, department managers, and top leaders in data and analytics. At that time, it was called database marketing, but now we call it data analytics and data science. Um, and at that time, though, I was searching for a long-term career growth path, and I discovered healthcare industry would be a great direction. So later on, you could predict that I worked in the healthcare industry on and off. For example, in 2006, I moved to Anthem, a top health insurance company for more than a year, but it seemed to be I did not fit very well because of different reasons. So I then spent 5 years as chief analytics officer at an innovative data analytics company, providing solutions for across the board for marketing and credit industries. That company was later became part of Equifax, acquired by Equifax. I continued my journey in healthcare at Cardinal Health in Columbus, Ohio, as a leader in health information services and strategy for analytics for 4 years, and it was a great learning experience for me. Uh, and later on, I expanded my industry exposure to retail and e-commerce, as well as transportation, consumable distribution for a few years. Now, I'm the executive leader in data analytics at Akron Children's, a system in northeast part of Ohio, focused on pediatric care with 7,000 employees, 100 locations of service delivery, more than 1 billion net patient revenue. I feel very fortunate to be able to leverage my cross-industry experience on data analytics to contribute to this journey for the healthcare industry transformation. So again, thank you, Deepti, for inviting me here, and it's an honor to be here.
Wow, no, it is my pleasure. I mean, and thank you, Gary. That was truly revealing. It kind of showed that how many different hats you worn, and so in healthcare and also in other industries, and you bring your knowledge and your perspective from those industries onto the table. So it's a great path that you've taken, and it's a great win for the healthcare industry that you're doing some work in that to help change it. I mean, but again, you're definitely contributing the future of health, but the future of health still remains a mystery to many of us. To many, it feels like it's promising. To some, it looks like a long uphill climb, and yet others are very, very optimistic based on the amount of money that and funding that has gone into the industry. So I would like to know, what are your thoughts on the future of health, and what do you think is in store for us?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic about the future of healthcare industry, although I clearly experience and observe and understand the challenges we face every day. I personally hope to see in the future that health insurance will be as easy as and also as affordable as car insurance for all consumers, right, and for the entire U.S. market, and should not be tied with employment or employer plans. The other wish for me is to really um, to have consumers and customers really have a seamless experience, continuous, let's say, undisrupted continuum of care transition, um, as pleasant and smooth as those with Disney cruises or Disney theme park or Amazon online shopping. That's my dream, but we have a long way to go there. My team at Akron Children's focuses on data analytics capabilities, development, and then support for Akron Children's to be more mature on multiple fronts. We have different data dimensions. For example, clinical, financial, operational, research, accountable care organization, and also including, of course, claims and social determinants of health. On the bigger picture, in the bigger picture, right? The digital transformation includes, of course, data analytics, but also other things like workflow automation, process optimization, consumer and patient experience, care management coordination, healthcare, economics, transparency, privacy and data ownership, cybersecurity, those kind of topics. So data analytics is only part of that digital transformation for healthcare. One of the challenges for us that I see is the resource allocation and investment prioritization, because we have so many things going on. We have a very complex ecosystem, even with a small, relatively small hospital like ours, 7,000 people and the 1 billion net patient revenue. We still have a lot of things, competing priorities. Another challenge is talent acquisition and retention and development. Historically, we have not realized that, oh, we need to treat, let's say, emerging functions in a different way, not as commodity service. The biggest challenge in my mind for the past few years or even decades is to balance the stability factor and the sense of urgency for change and innovation, because we are here to really lead change and lead innovation, but at the same time, we also have to pay attention to really make sure that we bring people along with this change, and then we don't necessarily assume we're always right. We have to make sure that we keep in mind of the stability factor to not disrupt the operational workflow and financial stability.
No, that's true. I mean, the future holds so many things, and you kind of alluded to a lot of different ways in which we can change. But again, change comes with its own price, right? You need to make sure you create the disruption, but you don't disrupt the workflows, right?
Yes.
And another interesting point you mentioned that I think is that healthcare really needs to learn from these other industries, such as entertainment and shopping and transportation, you mentioned, that have really adopted tech in a big way. I mean, classic example is Netflix that has changed the entertainment industry, or Amazon that has changed the way we shop, or even Uber is the way we transport ourselves from one location to other. And those transformations were possible. So why not in the healthcare industry? How can healthcare borrow from those industries and provide that personalized care experience that you're doing? And how are these healthcare organizations responding to this rise of, I would say, more consumerism? I don't know if that's the right word to say, but how should healthcare respond to this exponential growth of digital healthcare solutions that are being heavily invested upon by the investors that are pouring in money to create these point solutions? So a lot of different questions in there, but yeah.
Yes, I think you're right, Dipti. We all face the same market pressure and the high level of expectations from our patients and families. We may need to call them consumers or customers, but there is a tendency to really say patients, because we always imply the special relationship between doctors and patients. If we switch to use customers and consumers liberally, that special bond on trust between patient and doctors may be lost. So I would propose that we could set up a relationship spectrum across the healthcare industry, right? For clinical space, we should always continue to call patients as patients, because we can preserve the description of the special patient-doctor trust. On the other topics, non-clinical focused, we should in the future try to use the word label of consumer or customer, because that will really bring people universal, let's say, experience across their life experience. For example, healthcare insurance, registration, digital or on-site experience, payment and claims processing, all those things in healthcare, we should call customers or patients consumers. We don't have to call them patients, because patient, that's really implied clinical side. Most hospitals have not really properly set up chief customer experience officer as a title, as a area of, let's say, unified priority, because we still look at the factors as registration is one, and clinical as another, follow-up as another, community reach out as another, transportation is a separate one. Um, and also a lot of departments treat customers differently. Certainly we have a unified patient record from EMR, electronic medical record systems such as Epic. But still, the challenge is that we do not necessarily have that unified approach. We still have a fragmented approach. For example, marketing and PR teams, they do patient outreach and patient communication and direct mail PCs or email communication or outreach. On our operations team, actually set up a call centers. They take phone calls and then really measure that performance, inbound phone calls for appointments or change of appointments. A digital health team actually build mobile apps or actually maintain and really keep going for the online portal, for example, MyChart. So those are the three examples why those fragmented approaches are still there, and I do not see yet a sense of urgency to really integrate that in a short time. So it's we may not even have the strategy or maybe have the technology infrastructure to really integrate all of them. But I think we are on the right track, on the right direction to go there, but we're not there yet.
That's very interesting that you brought up, because we always talk about the data being fragmented and siloed, but even that whole ecosystem within the hospital is also fragmented and siloed, with all these different departments doing their own thing and not interacting. And now you have this whole opportunity for the data and the analytics capabilities. By putting money into that, you can actually bring all of that experience together to totally improve. And maybe that's a good route for the hospitals and the health systems to take to propel us into the future, right? I mean, if you had a magic wand and you could look 5 years into the future and you could do everything that you wish to do, what would the healthcare's digital transformation look like? What would these robotic automated process automation look like? Would you like to kind of suggest what ways we would go and what would make sense for healthcare to do to get there?
Yes, yeah. In 5 years, I think we can describe what the future of healthcare would look like in 5 years. I do not have a clinical training background, so I could not comment on that part, but certainly I will apply my knowledge and experience on the non-clinical applications. For example, customer or patient, let's say intake, behavior prediction, care management coordination, workflow, financial operations, revenue cycle, population health, creating a solid data foundation for research and for clinical informatics decision-making process. So those things are on our plan, and also we are working to build a lot of those capabilities. 5 years in the future, specifically on data analytics front, I would see more and more hospitals will have a better technology infrastructure with incremental investments, because that's the reality, right? That's number one. Number two is that I think we will see a more mature and proactive data content management, meaning do not treat data as a byproduct or an afterthought, but rather put that as a really strategic value, strategic asset perspective. Proactively manage the data, for example, understanding the data catalog, understanding data quality and profile, and also the shift and um, directional change. And so we can really make sure that we have business glossaries, the data definitions, and catalog data. All those things are available for people to access and use. And the third thing that I'm hoping to see is a federated, well coordinated community of analytics professionals working across enterprise, not just in the central team, enterprise team, but also at all the frontline departments and divisions and business lines to really bring in, integrate business intelligence and dashboards, descriptive analytics and diagnostic analytics with more mature predictive and prescriptive analytics. The cognitive analytics, that's really a very kind of like a dream state. We are still working on the fundamental needs for the decision-making process. And most of all, I think the ecosystem or environment would be much more supportive and ready for data-enabled decision-making. We sometimes say data-driven. What we really mean is our hospitals have our missions, right? We are mission-driven, but we are enabled by data. We should not necessarily say data-driven, because data is a tool for us to use to get to the end goal. Most people commingle things like the three things, as I said: technology, data, and analytics. So I want to borrow some examples from a former colleague of mine at Equifax, and say we can use making cookie as an example to describe this complexity of technology, data, and analytics. So data is the content or the ingredients, such as flour, water, butter, eggs, sugar, and chocolate chips, and syrup. But you have to proactively manage them, put them in the right place, measure them, make sure they're high quality, and then you can use them readily available in a proper inventory. Analytics is a recipe. How do you mix them in what portion or ratio? How do you control the temperature and time of, let's say, marinating? And so that's a secret sauce, kind of hidden patterns. Number three is technology is a set of tools and utensils and baking oven. So they have to be used to really make this work. So that's the foundational things. But we have to really set up those three things separately, but also integrated: technology, data, analytics.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. There was so much information in those things that you said. Federated data, you said the data is siloed, it needs to all come together and get deeper insights, not only within the hospital system, but even across hospital systems. Imagine if we had federated data. Data enabled is definitely the right word as opposed to data driven. We really need the data as an enabler. And I loved your analogy, right? Data is the ingredient and analytics is the recipe, you said, and technology is the tool. And all three are needed to bake that cookie, which in this case is healthcare.
Yes, that's right.
So, no, this is great. And I just wanted to say that this pandemic has definitely provided some strong tailwinds that has fueled startups to create the solutions that have enabled digital transformations and have allowed people like you to do what you do best by taking all of that data, taking the solutions that are available and truly transforming healthcare. But the winds are already changing. I'm already seeing that they're changing direction. Investors that were pouring money into startups are now a little hesitant. There's like a big change that has happened. So what areas of healthcare do you see? We had tailwinds before. What areas do you see strong headwinds coming up and why?
Yes. I see two aspects of the strong headwinds working against us. Number one is that we do not have adequate investment or realization of the need for investment for data content management. We normally call it data governance, but it's much more than governance, because governance implies that it's governed data and it's centrally controlled. Actually, probably has to be federated. That's why we sometimes call it data management instead of data governance. We're in an early stage of this data fluency, and many people do not realize, okay, data is something new, or data, we have to see data in a new way, not the old way. The old way is really seeing, oh, data is afterthought, but we have the data. So everybody wants to have data, but when they need the information for them to make better decisions, they say, okay, just give me the data or just give me the report. No, that's just early stage. We have to evolve and grow and become more mature. If data is not properly collected and stored and organized and cataloged and sustainably curated, it will take 90% or more of their time, of analysts' time, to extract and clean data for various analyses and reports, let alone predictive modeling or maintaining those predictive models, or the backlog, confusion, mismatch, or the, let's say, misunderstanding of those content would really slow down the transformation journey for data analytics for digital health. Second headwind is that we have had a very hard time attracting and developing and retaining professionals in data analytics space. Our compensation level for this job function is not competitive against other industries. Data analytics professionals have choices across industries. They don't have to work in healthcare, but if we don't have competitive compensation, then they say, oh, that's not attractive. They are not limited to only hospitals. The job track is not is generally young, and then we do not have, for example, properly structured job family or job description, a job a professional career growth track, and there is no, let's say, clearly defined job rotation plan, and some leaders tend to lump this space with IT. And I'm not saying data analytics is better than IT or more sophisticated than IT. It's just different functions. So we have to treat them in a right way, in a sensible way, and because uh, data analytics is connected very closely with information technology, but it is not part of the traditional information technology function. The personality is different. For example, IT is more engineering, data analytics is more consulting or maybe more problem solving. And they have more, I would say, require more liberal arts education for you to really communicate and translate complex problems into tangible, solvable, kind of like a small pieces of technical questions. We have a short supply in the talent market, but a very high level of demand. And for example, we have many approved FTE positions in our team, but we have constantly about 20% vacancy rate. For the past, I've been here for more than a year now. It's always 20% vacancy.
Yeah, no, I hear your pain, and you're right. I mean, we really need to have some major changes in order to propel ourselves forward. One being an infrastructure, an investment in there, and second is a shortage of talent. Of course, what you're doing and data and AI and machine learning can help solve some of that, but you still need that data to be ready, right? There's data and readiness. Yes. That takes up a lot of time, and that needs to happen too. Yep. So I agree, we really need a lot of en masse behavior change across healthcare in order for and people come to healthcare only if they have a passion for healthcare, yes, right? Exactly. So it's great to see people like yourselves who are passionate about healthcare, but to get many people to come in, there's not enough incentives other than that impact that you're making to society.
That's right. That's
right. So yes. It's really, really true. And that there's a ton of data, like we said, but it's all in silos and it's not shared. Fragmented and federated data would help a lot, but then you need to have policies that you need to change. So then at what time do you think our physicians and our stakeholders in healthcare will be able to see this comprehensive view of the patient's data? And in order for them to see that 360 view from all these various departments and also across hospitals, what needs to change to make that happen?
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see it in our lifetime?
Yeah, of course. I'm very optimistic there, but then the timeline is not 1 year for sure. Sometimes we hope or we wish this is a very fast process, but it is not. It's not a point of time, but rather a gradual and slow process over the next 3, 5, 10 years. So it's really a test on our patience. But that's why I said we have to balance the stability and lead change, and also the sense of urgency and for need for innovation. And hospital systems generally they are very complex ecosystems, a lot of interdependencies. In other industries, chief data analytics officers focus on BI, AI, ML, data ops, and then AI ops. But in hospitals, informatics is so specialized that they need clinical people, non-clinical people, and it's highly connected with the clinical decision making. Most doctors may not really have the properly trained background to think this way, to fully understand or utilize data analytics, technology, design thinking, agile methodology, DevOps, human and machine
Mhm.
interactions. So that's why there are a lot of potential for us to really bring maybe a new ingredients of the medical education in the future, not only clinical, but also some other things to really have this synergy or maybe cross-disciplinary benefit for us to really bring together. EMR, for example, electronic medical record systems, they do have master patient list, but it's highly protected. And then, so
Mhm.
to really move that out of that privileged environment, you have to not anonymize them or de-identify them. Then there's another set of IT investment. And for research, you have to have a different set. For clinical decision, we have a different set. Another things is that non-clinical information, for example, social determinants of health, those things have to be matched with ID information. And in the future, the personal healthcare data ownership should be really driven by consumers, not by the healthcare providers or insurance companies, right? So that requires much bigger discussion in terms of the scope and the
No, so
context.
true. So true. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle with so many different pieces that all need to fit with one another to make it all happen. And even if one piece is missing, you're not going to be able to complete that puzzle, right? And so the same thing is with digital transformation journey. I mean, you have this whole scale from 1 to 10, and I don't know, where are we? I think maybe with each hospital system, with each provider, with each payer, we may be at a different point. I mean,
Mhm.
where do you think these systems are? Are the providers ahead of the payers in the game right now? Is it the other way around? How
Yeah,
far are they along on a scale from 1 to 10?
yeah. On a scale to 1 to 10, my personal perception is that um, payer space is probably more advanced than provider space. It's just my personal observation. But I don't know exactly where they are, but I can generally say from 1 to 10, 10 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. Hospital systems are generally probably between 3 and 4. So they are behind generally other industries. There is some publication by IIA, International Institute for Analytics, and then they did the cross-industry survey or assessment, and healthcare
Mhm.
provider space hospitals actually are generally among the lowest across industries or sectors. That's why I'm saying there are probably 3 or 4. And I think payers are probably more advanced than that because I used to work at Anthem. Um,
Yeah.
but coming back to your question, your comment that we have so many pieces, right?
Yeah.
The challenge here is that understanding 80-20 rules, right? Maybe 20% of the data we should really focus on, and that can bring in 80% of the value. So
Right.
who can really have this design thinking, have this architectural strategist mindset and say, okay, yeah, we don't have to boil the ocean. Pick that 20% of the data volume that's really delivering 80% of the value. Do that
Mhm.
first. Chip away those resistance or slowly build reusable components and building blocks, and gradually you will have a great building emerging from the ground up.
No, I mean, data is at the center of everything. And along with data, I feel comes the security and analytics and the mobile and the cloud and the interoperability. So if you bring in one, then you can bring in all these other key pillars of transformation. And you have to deal with these ingredients every day. What does that journey look like, for a CDO, for a CIO, for a CDAO like yourself? How does one measure and track progress of what we've accomplished, where you need to go? And does the goalpost keep changing? Or is
Yes.
there something that we are all striving towards?
Yes, healthcare. My feeling is that it's not the same as other industries, right? We are, let's say, measuring the quality of care, measuring the progress and state of health for population. It's not pure financial calculation. In other industries, you have ROI. You have one dollar investment, you can have some measure back and say, okay, this is the return on that investment. But for us, it's another straightforward ROI calculation. I would say we have probably um, three ways to measure the progress. One is quantifiable, measurable numbers or metrics. For example, cost savings or cost avoidance, incremental revenue or incremental margin, a number of hours saved because we improved our efficiency, patient satisfaction score, even though it's just subjective, but it's still a score, it's a number, and or our net promoter score for brand recognition or brand equity. Those things are a little bit quantifiable measures. Some other numbers, metrics are less quantifiable. For example, we can add more capabilities to see complex situation differently, to trigger more actionable insights. Those things are not measurable, not less quantifiable. We may have cultural factors that are really important to attract and retain and develop our talents and skills. And some other measures, for example, the communication ability for our team to effectively solve problems and decision-making process, as well as how much, let's say, risk avoidance, risk averse are you? If you risk, if you're truly trying to avoid risks, you are not really doing the right thing because you're not trying new things and you are not knowing there's a better way, or you're just sticking with the old way, right? So the third way is to use benchmark with other, let's say, peers of yours to help us measure, because some other third party, let's say think tank or research companies, they measure different ways to go across the board. So we can use those three things. Number one is quantifiable measure. Number two is less quantifiable, but it's more soft numbers. Number three is benchmark across industries.
That's a lot of valuable information for all our listeners. There's so much come from a children's hospital, those different, but I think another topic that we should go in a future podcast. Yes. Or and I almost at the top of the hour. So we just this junction, what I would like to is changes in, right? And change needs to be for and you're in which we can change. Closing remarks for our listeners shouldn't do. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy. Generally, we have scarcity and we have the pressure from even competitive place, environmental pressure, and it's, I say it's a great time to work at the healthcare space. The is what we all look, but we have to be proactive, leading and making the necessary. If we do not, then we be, let's say, change that we made changes proactive. We also need to balance pace of change, the stability versus the need and sense of urgency. And we are all impacted by the huge kind of tidal wave of the environment and change in healthcare. It's a challenging journey, but I think it's worth it, and that we will absolutely do our best and make it a worthwhile experience and do well in the coming years. Thank you, Dipti, for inviting me, and it's an honor to be here. And I really enjoyed talking with you. And then hopefully this is useful information for people who are interested in this industry or in this sector and in this function, data analytics.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Gary, for taking this time to chat with us and for sharing your knowledge on how data and technology are actually unwinding healthcare's digital transformation journey. It was a very enlightening session for all of us. I'm sure your advice is going to stay with many and will be relevant through healthcare's transformation journey. And to the audience that we have with us, thank you for listening. Don't forget to check the show notes and the links to resources and contact information related to today's show. And you can stay tuned for more CareAsOne podcasts and discussions on trending healthcare topics that you care about. Send in your suggestions on speakers and topics, and we will try to address them. And thank you. for being with us today and listening to Gary. Have a great day. And thank you, Gary, for this wonderful session.
Thank you very much, Dipti.